Hello everyone, welcome to another session of Exploration Tech. I'm Jared Hackbart, Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brilliance. And again, I feel like I always say this, but I can't help from getting excited when we have such awesome guests. Today we have Lauryn Spence from BigCommerce, and she's got some really great content to share with all of you about future-proofing your business. Really looking forward to the conversation today. Lori, please introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm excited about today. A little bit of background on me and about Brilliance. I went to Purdue in computer electrical engineering, and through an internship ended up at NASA Johnson Space Center, where I eventually worked as a flight controller for the space shuttle program. I ended up meeting my husband there. He also was an engineer at Purdue and also was a flight controller at NASA. And he eventually went to work for Rockwell Automation. And we ended up relocating to Milwaukee through a promotion that he had to Rockwell's headquarters. And I was trying to figure out what could be his coolest space. And that was in 1998. And so I decided to start a web development company. And 20 years later, my husband left Rockwell, and now he leads our development team. And we've grown. We've made it on the Inc. 5000, and we help manufacturers and distributors implement digital commerce solutions. And along the way, as we have been on a search for what software tools help us to do that and help companies the best, we found BigCommerce to be a great answer to that question, and which is why we're really excited about the conversation that we're going to have here today, because one of the things that we know is that there are a lot of questions that go into like picking the right platform and figuring out how to build your site on something that can grow with you over time. So Lauryn, I'm so excited to have you here with us today. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Really great to be here. Awesome distraction from what's going on in the world right now. I have a fancy schmancy slide for about me. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to share that. So my name is Lauryn Spence. I manage agency partnerships here at BigCommerce. I am born and raised in Austin, Texas, so y'all will be hearing the occasional y'all throughout today's discussion. So fair warning on that. I do have an entrepreneurial background, mainly direct to consumer, but I used to manage my own gift shop business, e-commerce operation several years ago. And today, as I mentioned, I'm managing agency partnerships here at BigCommerce. So working with great folks such as yourselves here at Brilliance to really support our customer base and help them with their go-to-market strategy and systems integration, things like that. So it's by day, by night, I'm raising an 11-month-old in a pandemic. Before the world shut down, I was an avid traveler. It's a picture of me there in Vancouver. So sad. Can't wait to go back sometime. So yeah, a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauryn, for joining us. We know you are very busy. We are so excited for this conversation. So let's jump into it. Lauryn, many manufacturers and distributors see a need to improve their digital experiences, especially with 2020 in play. You have an interesting analogy for how your e-commerce site is like a house. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been at BigCommerce for almost 6 years now. Actually, my 6-year anniversary was on Tuesday. And, whether I'm talking to a new digitally native brand or someone direct to consumer or wholesaler manufacturer, from the likes of a startup all the way up to, the more established folks like Skullcandy, right? We really have come back to this house analogy and really how to think about the business. So think of the house as e-commerce operation. Think of yourself, the e-com owner or business manager, director, whoever, as the realtor, and you're trying to sell this house. And then think of the bones or foundations of the house as your e-commerce platform, right? So the whole goal here is making sure you get the foundations right so that ultimately you can sell this house. So to kind of elaborate that a bit further, if you're trying to sell the house, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're probably going to hire someone to come and decorate it, right? Design it, make it look nice. So think of that as UX, UI, and optimization in the e-commerce world. Then you'll probably want to list it on some third-party marketplaces, right? Just to get some more visibility from third-party sellers. In the e-com world, think of that as popular marketplaces such as Amazon, eBay, etc. You'll certainly want to pay for some traffic, right? Get people to come and see the house, view it, really imagine themselves living there. You'll want them to go off and tell all their friends, right? So in the e-com world, think of that as social media marketing, affiliate marketing, things like that.
Yeah, I love this analogy, Lauren. You know, in the B2B space, many companies have special rules around pricing and shipping. So does this analogy of the house hold up there too?
Absolutely. So, think about, again, if you're a buyer of a house, you're going to want to imagine yourself living in it, right? And can it accommodate your, family of 4, right? If it's a house only for family of 3. So you'll have to think about some things. Is it customizable? Is it extensible? In the house terms, like, can you bust down a wall to create that extra room? But in e-com role, especially for B2B, is it flexible and customizable enough to account for your, specific customer group pricing rules, right? And differentiating the customer experience you might have, or maybe even payment terms or shipping considerations, right? So are you working with an extensible platform that can really help you meet those needs for your different buyers? Whether that's something, they're going to develop with an agency like you guys, or maybe an app or integration, so like, new features like a pool. Same goes there. Are you working with best in breed tools for order management, for quoting, for purchase orders and invoicing, that sort of thing? Then there's some other things you want to consider. Is this neighborhood safe for my kids? Is your e-commerce site, secure, reliable? It's not going to be, a threat to anyone that's making potentially $1 million purchase orders right through the site. So you want to make sure that's something you have locked down. Then there's some other kind of not so sexy stuff around PCI compliance, making sure, the piping and all that's all squared away. So definitely still applies in the B2B space.
Yeah, definitely. And so when we think about this analogy, where does e-commerce software fit in terms of, like, what do we need to think about when we think about future proofing our business?
Yeah, lots you'll need to think future-proof about. So again, going back to the house, I promise I'll stop using this analogy as it could be getting old, but you could have the prettiest house in the world, but if you don't get the foundations right, it's going to be really hard to sell that house, right?
Yeah.
And especially think of if there's third-party events that happen. And in today's, climate, that could be something like COVID that's going to come in and completely change how you need to run and think about your business, especially for B2B, right? It's not like death of the salesman and that kind of thing for account management in the B2B space, but certainly things are changing in the digital space for B2B. It's not too late to make those changes, but it certainly will be, right, at some point, especially as you look at and kind of measure up against the competition and what they're doing with their tech stack. So the whole goal really is to ask yourself, is the current tech stack you're working with future-proofing yourself for future changes in the market, and how you need to adapt to the way that people are purchasing and really what they're expecting.
So, Lauren, what do you see as the typical reasons why an organization would be looking to replatform?
Yeah, and I'll say this: replatforming is not fun. In the 6 years here, right, working with folks, it's a grueling process. Like moving, right? It's expensive. Things can break. It's a daunting task, but there are some telltale signs where you will need to think about, maybe this is something I should look into, right? Especially after the holiday season. So these are the major ones. I'll kind of briefly touch on each one. First and foremost, if you've experienced a major site outage due to peak traffic time, that's a huge one, right? Especially maybe during the holiday season or during, just peak times and seasonality, whenever you see more business. This can be huge, right? Like, can people even find you and get to your site? I think even Amazon was like down for a day, and that just shocks the world, right? Like, it's just a horrible experience for customers. So that's a really big one from a reliability standpoint. Have you had an on-site bug or vulnerability that, hopefully didn't cost you millions of dollars, right, in litigation, or, in the stealing of your consumers' financial data or credit card information? That's a really big one. Maybe you had the desire to implement a new feature, but you had the inability to do so due to either cost, time, or just simply your tech stack wouldn't allow for that, or your platform wasn't flexible enough for that. That's something else you'll need to think about is, does your tech stack even allow you to ideate and innovate today? Slow page load times. This is a huge one. We know this, especially in B2B, a lot of the buyers now are millennials making those purchasing decisions. Arguably the most impatient group of buyers, I myself included. This can be a killer, right? For anyone, no matter what your business is. This is a really big one to make sure that you've got quick time to paint, right, in terms of the site loading. This will also impact you in terms of your SEO, right, considerations and your site traffic. So there's a lot that goes into making sure you've got a quickly loading site there. Total cost of ownership, making sure that that's not upside down. So making sure that your budget is properly allocated to front-end revenue generating activities, right? Optimizing the purchasing journey for your buyers, or the quoting experience, and ultimately trying to get new customers, versus investing your technical resources and just really keeping the lights on. That's not the kind of thing that's going to drive you into the future, right? Those are kind of some of the things you'll need to consider, is like, okay, where is my money going? And then last but not least, maybe you've lost sleep to any of the above, right? But those are really the main things that we're seeing on signs on you need to re-platform, or at least think about it.
Yeah, those are such great things to consider in terms of like what it feels like to go through that pain that's going to prompt a replatforming. I know one of them that I really can relate to, I've seen many of companies that I've talked to experience, is the struggles over total cost of ownership, especially in B2B, where they're in a platform that they may have customized, and then the upgrades get really expensive if they're on like an on-premise solution that the code's gotten really customized, and upgrades can cost like half the cost of their original project, and then that's money they're not spending in terms of making it better and making more money. So such really great points about the need to what types of things cause people to look at a replatform.
So it's an exciting time for us at Brilliance, because we focus on the B2B space, and manufacturers and distributors are definitely starting to recognize that digital is a critical sales channel for themselves. What are you seeing on the BigCommerce side?
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot as well. I mean, especially with COVID, the big trend that we're seeing is just really like the shift from, working with traditional sales reps out in the field for B2B and really transferring that online. Now, I'm not saying that needs to go away. There's still a need for those reps from a relationship standpoint, but we're definitely seeing, with everyone shopping at home for their own personal products, they're really expecting the same kind of experience in their day-to-day with business, and just kind of expecting that. So really, they'll need to start thinking about their website as their top sales representative, right? Similar to an actual human. Let's say someone was coming to your store and they were only making sales like 1 to 3% of those folks. Maybe they're giving them the wrong information, they weren't greeting them well, or just it was just a poor experience, right? You probably, as the store owner, wouldn't accept that. You'd want to train them, or maybe invest in hiring someone new. So same goes for your website. If the on-site experience or the purchasing journey is clunky and it's difficult, or maybe it's hard to do like reorders, right, or search for products quickly within the catalog, they're probably going to go elsewhere. So you want to make sure you're working with a platform that's allowing you to ideate, innovate, that's allowing you to potentially get into some other channels. And because one thing that we know is true, no matter what industry or vertical you're in, consumers are really demanding experiential commerce, right? And what we mean by that, and to kind of break this down, is how we're interacting and transacting with brands across the board is changing every single day. Gone are the days of someone just looking up a site or a business to buy from and just buying there. There's all kinds of different channels that are at play. But specifically, what you'll need to think about in B2B, and I mentioned this earlier, on the experiential commerce side is think about the different generations and cohorts. So there's, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and boomers. And I mentioned millennials, very impatient. They need immediate gratification. These are the people going and making purchases on Instagram, right? They've totally changed the game and how e-commerce should operate. So same is going to go for B2B, right? When these people get into their careers and they're making decisions, they're going to want a direct consumer type feel. Now, one other thing that holds true across all generations, right, in terms of the type of buyer and what they want for experiential commerce, this whole pandemic has just changed like the psychology of how people buy, no matter what industry you're in. People want to feel like they've got autonomy and control. They want to feel relatedness to a brand, and they want to feel like they're making a smart choice or being competent about their purchase. So making sure that you can tailor your on-site experience like to what that at-home audience is feeling right now, very important, especially in B2B. Omnichannel, still key, right? Regardless of vertical. And this is what I mentioned, like, gone are the days of someone just only buying from your website. There's all kinds of different channels you'll need to consider. Content, right, needing to be informative, needs to connect with your customers, making them want to come back. and making sure that it's very, very easy to do so. And if you're in B2B and thinking of, going direct to consumer with some product lines, it's important to make sure that your tech stack can allow for that, right? Is it going to allow you to differentiate the customer experience, or do you need to go off and like build a whole new website? So those are really important things to consider. And last but not least, again, across the board, everyone's demanding, beautiful sites with high engagement. Skull Candies does a great job of this. So they're both direct to consumer and B2B, and they differentiate that experience. So depending on who you are when you log in, the whole experience changes to really optimize spend, right? And the reason why this is really important is people have fleeting brand loyalty. Again, millennials being a big problem here. They're looking for the best deal. Who are they most impressed with? Regardless of industry. So across the board, this is a big trend and something to think about. Regardless of what product you're selling, you do need something a little bit more flashy, more beautiful, and more engaging.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all selling to people, whether they're business buyers or they're buying, for themselves at home. And so they're expecting this kind of experience. And we know that people are doing a lot of research before they want to talk to anyone. So, to your point, it's why we need to have digital experiences that are consistent with what they're going to experience elsewhere in an organization. So it's really important that organizations take a strong look at how their website supports that. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all selling to people, whether they're business buyers or they're buying, for themselves at home. And so they're expecting this kind of experience. And we know that people are doing a lot of research before they want to talk to anyone. So, to your point, it's why we need to have digital experiences that are consistent with what they're going to experience elsewhere in an organization. So it's really important that organizations take a strong look at how their website supports that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of what I was getting in here today, right? Is, if anyone's a fan of The Clash, should I stay or should I go now? There's really, different platform questions or considerations you'll need to be asking, and specifically there's 4, right? And so essentially these 4 technology trends are really changing the way consumers are buying. It's changing the way that marketers need to think about their business. So if you're responding negatively to any of these 4 questions, it definitely might be time to think internally, should I evaluate another platform? To kind of get started, first and foremost, does your technology still work for you? This is the table stakes stuff, right? Is it stable? Is it reliable? Does it have, the built-in features that I need to manage my products efficiently, integrate with, multiple warehouses and all that sort of thing, right? But is it also extensible, right? Because the technology you might be using today isn't necessarily what you might need tomorrow. So can you easily test and learn new integrations? Or are you working with a partner that can help you do that? Specifically on the partner side, is there a skill shortage, right? On the platform you're working with, is it old and outdated? Is it some homegrown system that only one person at your company knows how to operate? What happens if they leave tomorrow? So those are some important considerations on this first question, right? Is does it still work for you? Lori, Jared, are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, there are many instances where organizations have ideas for ways they could serve customers better, and their tech stack is holding them back. And so you never want to be in that position, right? Either because it's old technology that just can't do what you want, or because it's so complicated it would take too much time and money to do it.
Yeah, specifically on the money part, you bring up a good point, right? And total cost of ownership, to circle back on that. Is your total cost of ownership upside down? So do you find yourself paying for those unforeseen upgrades that you guys talked about with some of those really expensive on-premise platform licenses that you have to pay for per server, right? You have to even think about those things. So do those costs get in the way of you and your company testing and learning new products, or maybe even going direct to consumer someday with some of those products to compete? So you gotta really kind of think, are you using your IT resources in the most efficient manner? And is your funding freed up to, say, invest with an agency like you guys to really invest in growth and optimizing and really increasing, the average order value for your buyers?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what so many people miss, is that if you're spending money on upgrades, you can't be spending it on growth, on improvements that help you get better. And when you look at what digital leaders are doing, they're constantly investing in things to help them grow and help them serve their customers better. So yeah, innovation and continually trying new things is so important. And on that note, not all B2B companies really recognize the need to invest in digital marketing, and especially earned marketing. And I know, Lauryn, this is something that I'm really curious if you can talk to us about the importance of earned marketing.
Absolutely. This is arguably one of the most important factors. Are you able to optimize that marketing spend and earn marketing to fuel your growth? And what I mean by that is, once you've invested in, building the audience, once you actually get there and the chance to have the buyer or have that customer, are you making it as easy as possible to capitalize on that? And there's some simple table stakes stuff to think about, like is the site mobile optimized, right? Is it SEO friendly? Those kinds of things so people can find you and actually interact with you. But do you make it easy in the B2B world to like customize payment terms or make changes to orders or reorder products, right? And keep them coming back and making it you've just done the process all the way down, and you've added a lot of value to what they're doing in their business. On the direct consumer side, more specifically, there's a lot of different things that people need to do, obviously, to separate themselves from the winners and the losers. And the big thing there is going to be building an audience. If you look at any of those disruptive brands in the world, like Dollar Shave Club or Harry's, in one night they built a whole audience that completely overtook what Gillette spent decades trying to do with one video. And they did a really good job of making it easy for with subscriptions. Getting repeat customers, right? Setting up reorders. You could do that in B2B actually as well. Mm-hmm. Getting that dialed in real easily. And now actually to compete with that, Gillette, a Procter & Gamble brand, several years ago ended up re-platforming to BigCommerce to tackle that same model. So once they spent all this money in investing and getting that audience, how do they keep that earned marketing? Well, it's making the on-site experience great, focusing on things like conversion rate optimization, paying attention to checkout. So that's a little bit about, both worlds from the B2C and B2B side. But is this kind of in line with what you guys are seeing with B2B as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I often hear manufacturers and distributors struggle with how am I going to compete with organizations much bigger than I am? And to your point, Lauryn, I think content is a key part of that earned marketing. I think that's how organizations that have a lot of subject matter expertise can demonstrate that online and create a relationship with people that then having a really, great experience for people digitally helps to convert on that.
Yeah, just moving ahead though, okay, so now that you've handled, all the kind of table stake stuff, right? Does the tech work for you? Is the total cost of ownership right? And now that you've built this audience, right, can you really capitalize on that earned marketing? Then you do have to kind of think about the not so fun and not so sexy stuff. Can you securely scale the business, right? This is talking about the underlying tech stack, right? Remember the foundations of the house that you typically want someone else to handle. You just want to focus on running the business. But you do need to make sure you're selecting a company that's handling all these things for you, right? Like DDoS mitigation, PCI compliance, GDPR compliance, any acronym with compliance after it, does a platform manage that? That's something you'll need to consider. But then maybe you want to, grow and scale, sell in different channels, or maybe expand internationally. There's different security and compliance regulations that you'll need to keep in mind. That can be really hard in on-prem systems, right? You really have to go at it yourself or hire someone to manage that. And rules are always changing in that space. So making sure that you're able to scale, but do so securely, right? And hold a good reputation for your company.
I have to admit, in the 20 years that Brilliance has been around, all of these things that you're talking about have been a struggle classically. And I was a bit of a skeptic when it came to SaaS platforms on the whole in terms of their ability to help organizations because oftentimes, that is a potential answer for some of these things. And because many B2B organizations have so many needs that are custom or different than other people, that can be kind of challenging for a SaaS platform to meet the needs of like a complex a digital commerce solution that exists in B2B. And so, when we started investigating different solutions and specifically looking at BigCommerce, I was really impressed by your open SaaS approach. So I'm curious if you can tell us more about that.
For sure. So in all these trends, the underlying thing that you mentioned there, Lori, is you're going to need to consider that broad e-commerce spectrum. There's hundreds of platforms out there, right, to choose from. Arguably, it's a 4-horse race. And there's 2 different approaches that you'll need to consider. So, there's the classic open source or on-prem approach. These are the more, flexible systems out there, right? You can customize the whole experience end to end from the ground up. Sky's the limit on what's possible, right? From an integration standpoint, from a look and feel standpoint, and functionality standpoint. But with great power comes great responsibility in terms of cost, maintenance, upgrades, time, resources, effort. It's a big reason actually people look to SaaS platforms. They're super slick. They've got built-in functionality, very low total cost of ownership, continuously updated with the latest and greatest features to keep you ahead of the technology curve. Highly performant, very lightning fast, page load speeds, very fast as well. But to your point, there's a lot of skepticism on, well, that might be a little too cookie cutter, especially for B2B. That was certainly true, especially I'd say, about 5 years ago. Now there's no silver bullet to commerce, but I would like to think BigCommerce comes pretty close. I promise this is the only shameless plug for our company in this presentation. Got to do it, have to do it. But really, what the whole open SaaS way, what that's getting at is trying to give you the best of both worlds, right? Giving you commerce without compromise, enterprise grade functionality for B2B, really being able to differentiate your customer buying experience, enable things like bulk pricing, pricing, and international considerations, smoothly streamlining purchase orders, your account management, inventory management across warehouses, having a system to do all that, but with a point and click type interface that's very marketer friendly. You don't need to be a developer to work it. It's really better optimized for you to work with another agency on just helping you fuel your growth, but not necessarily work on keeping the lights on or dealing with all those headaches from a security standpoint. So that's really kind of the trade-off there in the open SaaS way. And really what that allows you to do is work with something more flexible, it's faster, it's more omni-channel friendly. The whole buy the suite or own it all methodology, what I mean by that is if you work with an open SaaS platform, you're really taking more of a best of breed approach to commerce. So for example, there are B2B SaaS systems out there, like NetSuite Commerce. Now we all know NetSuite's really known for their ERP, right? They've got a whole suite of products, a lot of things they're offering. That's kind of a monolithic approach because they're best in breed with their ERP, not necessarily on the commerce. So it's really common actually for a lot of people to use BigCommerce, but integrate with NetSuite ERP, right? Our approach is we don't want to own the CMS or your POS or payments or ERP system. We're just going to be commerce only. Be API first and allow partners like yourselves to help these brands integrate with their best in breed technology. And like I said, give them flexibility to make changes, as their needs change, right, in the future. So it doesn't matter if you're automotive, fashion apparel, food and beverage, medical, sports and outdoors, kind of a wide gamut here. But across direct consumer and B2B, working with an open SaaS platform like BigCommerce really gives you a lot of flexibility to grow and can service a variety of needs. That's why we wanted to show this slide here with all the logos. Whether you're ResMed or Skullcandy or Avery Dennison, there's enough built in out of the box to get you going, but then a lot of flexibility to work with partners such as yourselves to really grow and scale and just optimize your business. A good case study for that is talking about Berlin Packaging. So this is a really well-known B2B distributor manufacturer, and they've been around since the 1930s, but they have about, 200 partner vendor locators and a really complex catalog, a really archaic ERP system, but they really needed to kind of optimize that buying journey for their customers. So they took a look at the likes of BigCommerce, Magento, IBM WebSphere, definitely narrowed it down to us for a variety of reasons, but the big ones being total cost of ownership, a lot more built in for pricing and configuring, like kind of bundling products, right, and kind of build your own type packages, and being able to more seamlessly integrate with the ERP. So a lot of considerations there, but this is a great example of a company that decided to take a direct consumer approach to wholesale, and they worked with a partner such as yourselves to really optimize that buyer journey, the catalog, how people can search and easily reorder and make purchase orders, right? And it worked out really nicely. Check out their conversion rate increases and increase, time spent on site. A whole lot went into that there. So quick quote from them, do the open API and use of custom fields. BigCommerce made everything extremely flexible. And also, with help of a good agency, there's endless opportunities for customization. So just a little bit of background there on their story and someone living the open SaaS way in the B2B space. So highly recommend checking out their site and taking a look at how they've configured things.
You shared so much excellent content with us here today. Can you give us your quick hitter key takeaways that our viewers should consider?
Absolutely. So kind of just to circle back on those 4 major questions, right? Is it customizable and is it extensible? So, right, this is talking about, can you get the look and feel you want? Does it have the features and functionality, give you the user experience you're going to need for your buyers, right? This is the table stakes stuff. And our third-party integrations, to optimize order management, purchase ordering, all that available. Then secondly, is it secure and reliable, right? Do you have the not so sexy stuff worked out in terms of PCI compliance, GDPR compliance? Are you going to have a reliable uptime during peak buying times or, in different peaks and seasonality? Third, making sure, right, that once you spend all that money in that earned marketing and earning that audience, can you spend your time attracting and converting those buyers, right? And like Berlin Packaging, can you optimize your conversion rate optimization to make it so easy for people to reorder from you, to go in and customize orders or look at previous orders and just make them keep wanting to come back, right? And making sure that you're optimized there. And last but not least, making sure that you're doing so with a very attractive total cost of ownership, right? Everyone's looking to save. No matter if you're the biggest business in the world, everyone wants a low TCO. So making sure you're working with a system that's software as a service, an open SaaS platform like BigCommerce to allow you to invest in other things that are going to help you grow the business versus just worrying about keeping the lights on with the actual website.
Such really great tips. And one of the things I really believe is that for organizations, they need to be thinking about this as a journey, and which is why, like going back to the beginning, I love your analogy of the house and of a good foundation. And like you want to pick a platform that is going to create that foundation that you can, extend to your point, that is secure, that you can continually improve on, and is going to give you that low total cost of ownership. So really, really good tips. Thanks, Lauryn.
Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you so much for having me. If anyone, wants to get in touch, this is my contact info. Again, in working for a company, an open SaaS company, none of this stuff is possible for our customers without agencies and partners like you guys, especially in B2B, right? There's a lot of bespoke requirements. So it's very highly encouraged to, find the right tech stack and platform, but also find the right partner. So we're really excited to be here and appreciate you having me today.
Lauryn's contact information for those who are looking to sync up with her. If you are interested in having more conversation around your specific site as well, you feel free to reach out to myself or Lori, and we'd be happy to set that up. Again, thank you all for attending. We'll follow up with the recording, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you again, Lauryn.
Thanks, Lauryn.
Thank you.